Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Terri Lee-Shield. I am host at Love School and present the videos on this channel and over in the courses that support holistic health and well-being, especially for trauma, abuse and neglect survivors, but actually are suitable for anybody looking for self-development, evolution, self-improvement, all that wonderful stuff. I want to do the video today. It's a bit ad hoc. I haven't planned it. I've got a couple notes, but I want to do the video today about self-validation, because one of the trends, one of the things that I see going on at the minute, and it seems especially rife in social media and support groups and just the culture we're moving into, is this lack of ability to self-validate, needing constant approval from each other, needing some sort of scientific evidence, solid data before we can believe something we either innately feel to be true or actually taking things on that don't feel right for us or don't work for us simply because it's data backed. And I use this because I have a very skeptical mind regarding data. I'm not denying its use. I'm not a complete science skeptic. It's really important to research, I personally love to research, find out about life, but really each of us is unique and each of us has our unique perspective, our unique experiences. And even if something is true for like one person or in one experiment, like I'm also, just from my own experiences, I've come to understand that life is always changing. It's always evolving. And you know what? If you go on the internet and search for anything, you are going to find conflicting opinions, conflicting data, conflicting resources on any subject, especially something that can be personally interpreted, that has a bias. And let's face it, we live in a capitalist world where actually a lot of research, a lot of data is funded for the intentions to get a specific outcome that back up our current economic system and are fueled by capitalist agendas. And that includes our health and well-being and our mental health. So I want to talk a little bit about our mind, because one of the things that I've noticed as well is suddenly there's this like lack of understanding of what mental means. Mental is something of the mind, and what our mind is. Our mind is not our brain. Our brain is a physical organ. Our mind is an abstract construct. Our mind does not exist outside of ourself. It has no physical fixed reality. Our mind is etheric. It is personal. It can be completely reconstructed, changed, conditioned, programmed. And a mental health problem is a thinking problem. It's not a physical problem. And just to go along with that, our emotions are not our thoughts. And our emotions are a physical thing we feel. Our emotions guide us. And I have done a previous video about emotions, and I actually am doing some supportive programs about emotional intelligence and understanding our emotions and how to process emotions and all that. So I will link some of that in the description if you're curious about finding out more about emotions. But emotions are normal, they're valid, they are human. And we're not disordered because we have emotions. We might have problems processing our emotions, and that can be to do with trauma. It can be to do with the stressed or burnt out nervous system. It can do with a lack of education. There can be a lot of reasons why we have problems processing our emotions. Some of that might be mental health problems. And one of the mental health problems is that I shouldn't have emotions, which is a thought and an idea of the mind, not the brain, not the brain, the mind. And the mind, I mean, I think, but from what I've learned from my own journey, from my own healing, from my own research, from diving into psychology, the history of psychology, and understanding, I'm going to lose the word. Yeah, it's gone. Sorry. Labeling is what I'm going for. Psychiatric labeling. That our mind is a tool. It should be affirming us. It should be collecting data that we want to collect. We should be able to organize our mind. We should understand our thoughts. We should understand we're not our thoughts. We are not our mind. There is something beyond the mind. If we can think and we can notice our thoughts, there's something behind that. Okay. We are not just our bodies, we're not just our mind, we are this thing that is alive, that can witness our bodies, that can perceive our mind and use our mind as a tool. The mental health problems that we have are when we're not using our mind as an effective tool, when our mind is against us, when we are having thoughts, ideas, or conditions that are telling us that we are wrong, that are stopping us from being healthy, being well, that are stopping us from being ourselves, from being healthy in the world, and making us feel a certain way. But the thoughts itself, the thinking is the mental health problem, not the feeling. The feeling is a human thing. Now, anyway, I'm going off on one a little bit, but I just wanted to make that really clear. For me, massive part of my healing journey is learning to self-trust. And one of the ways I learned to self-trust is through self-validation. And there's a few different aspects to self-validation. One of them is to be able to give self-empathy, to empathize with the human experience, the complexity of it, the human condition, the emotions we have, the experiences that we go through, the aloneness of it, all of this, the fact we're alive is like a huge deal. And just empathizing with all of that as we are working through the process, living our lives and trying to process our experiences. Not to mention the fact that we have a lot of traumatic experiences as we live and grow, most of us. Grief, bereavement, mistakes that we make, people we lose, the complexity of relationships. And I'm not even getting into the news and the global events. We can be abused, we can be victimized, all of this stuff that comes with being human. If we are not able to validate ourselves and our self-worth through it all, it can become very lonely, very isolating, very confusing, and then we can develop mental health problems. So actually being able to self-validate through empathy and understanding is really important. Another way that we need to self-validate is actually through our own experiences. So rather than just believing something we've read on the internet, rather than just taking somebody's word for it, going along with a crowd, experiment, find out for yourself. Like, this is one of the things that I've done, which is how I've built up confidence, which is how I've built up a really strong sense of what I know to be right. Like, people go, how can you even say that? How do you know that's right? It's like, well, because I've experimented intentionally for like 12 years. I've tested everything. I've pushed everything as far as I can to find out, is this true? Is this not true? What works for me? What's right for me? And now that I actually literally have that lived experience, no one can take that away from us. So I'm not going to be invalidated by somebody else's opinion, which actually might even be an opinion based on something they've read on the internet and not a lived experience. Other people, and even other people's lived experiences that are different to mine, don't really affect us because it's not my experience. So it's not relevant in my world and my perspective. And yes, there is a collective perspective that it's important we all contribute to, but it's not going to chip away at my self-worth and self-understanding. And It's not going to shift my alignment of what I have discovered through my experiences is right, is true for me, through the things I share. Some of the things I share, people take really controversially. And actually, I'm like, well, okay, maybe it doesn't work for you to consider emotions normal, and maybe it's better for you to consider yourself completely disordered human because you feel a certain way or have certain thoughts or have responded to trauma in a certain way. It just didn't work for me. It didn't. And I questioned it all. And the more I questioned it and the more I put it into practice and experimented, the healthier and more well I got mentally, physically, and emotionally. And through that whole process of that experimental process, I had to go through some really difficult experiences: social rejection, trolling, physical, like reputation attacks. You know, people really didn't like it when I started to realize that I don't need to be right. I can experiment and be wrong and make mistakes and be accountable for my mistakes. But actually, we don't have to be popular. We don't it hasn't made much difference in my life to be popular. And actually, in some ways, the more popular I was, the more I was trying to like bend and shapeshift to fit in, the more that did actually affect us. It took us out of my integrity and it took us out of my alignment and led me into something else that wasn't actually for the best for me. So I've just learned all that, and now I want to like share it with you, so like you could decide for yourself and maybe do your own experiments and learn. But the whole point of that learning is that I can self-validate. I very strongly know that humans have this innate knowing of what is right and of what is true. We feel truth. And even though sometimes truth can shift as we grow or our perspective changes, some truths can. Subjective truths can. Some objective truths can't. That's a whole other video. But we kind of know, like, that is alignment to me. Like, I read something and I go, no, I just doesn't feel right. It feels off. And that, like, is just in us. We all have that inbuilt guidance system, and often we're educated and taught away from it. I was. And that's what caused a lot of problems, a lot of trauma, a lot of mental health problems, got me into horrible situations, and it wasn't good for me. So I think when we learn to be able to self-validate through our experiences and by using our mind correctly as a tool, we can actually tap into that truth and know what's like, what's right. I kind of feel that that's like God in a way. That's our nature. That is the universal energy that wants to come through us, that goes, this is your guidance system. This is what makes your experience happen. This is part of what guides you to become who you are, what your potential is. And this is what's true for you, even if that truth is only right now, right now, right now. And then when we follow that, when we know that, we are living our true life. We are living our path. And when I did that, became mentally fitter and stronger, was able to physically heal, was able to be guided to work through my trauma outside of all of the what's currently trending and popular psychoanalytic stuff. I still kind of get the word pathologizing. That's it. Where literally you are labeled as something disordered for simply responding to experiences in a way that has been decided is incorrect. Kind of more on the side of I believe in diversity. I believe we're all supposed to be different, that we all have different experiences, we all have different DNA, we all have different perspectives, and that how we respond is probably normal and right for us. And even if it had causes consequences down the line that we would like to change, it doesn't make us wrong. It just makes us human. And then that's part of our healing, that's part of our recovery, to be able to work through those experiences, process trauma, and use our mind as a tool, our emotions as a guide, and find that alignment again, find that wholeness again. I'm going to leave the video there. I've written a blog about this. If you're more of a reader, if you want to read a little bit more about it, I've written a blog over at Love School UK blog. That's loveschool.uk.blog. I'll link it. I'll put the link in the description, everything. Please like the video and subscribe. I'm like trying to build a channel traction, bit of momentum on the channel. It would be great to connect with more people who want to see this kind of content. Feel free to comment if you'd like to share your ideas. Let me know what you think. And thank you for watching this video. See you again. Bye-bye.